You know, after his death, Charlie Kirk has been compared to MLK, JFK, and even Jesus by conservatives. And at this point, it's not even shocking. It's just confirmation that the right has officially crossed over into full myth-making mode. Facts and reality, they don't match their worldview. So they just invent a whole new tale, everything inflated into legends. But now, and I swear this is real, Candace Owens has decided that comparing Charlie Kirk to Jesus, it's not enough. Because according to Candace, Charlie Kirk wasn't just influential, he wasn't just controversial, and he wasn't just a political figure. No, he was a mutant. Like X-Men mutant. And I don't mean metaphorically, I don't mean rhetorically. I mean Candace Owens actually leaned into this idea that Charlie Kirk was some kind of genetically different being, too powerful, too disruptive, too special to exist in a normal political space. Oh, and he was a time traveler. Candace on her podcast said, "It is an absolute fact that Charlie Kirk thought that he was a time traveler. He told me he was a time traveler repeatedly." She then went on to talk about how the CIA had special schools, a deep state technology, and various different timelines to mess with us. She even used the color of Pikachu's tail as an example, which raises a pretty basic question here. When did politics turn into Comic-Con fan fiction? Now, before we get into the madness of the people in the comments section, let me say this clearly. Charlie Kirk was assassinated. That is wrong. Political violence is wrong. There's no debate there. But condemning violence doesn't mean you have to start losing your mind and start rewriting someone into a deified Marvel character. And that is where Candace Owens completely detaches from Earth. In her mind, quite literally, and I'll get to that in a second. But instead of discussing Charlie Kirk's impact in a rational way, she went straight into this comic book delusion, where the only way to explain Charlie Kirk's relevance is to turn him into something supernatural. Which is interesting, because these are the same people that scream that Marvel movies are woke propaganda and social engineering. So let's get this straight. Mutants and superheroes are Marxist metaphors. Unless they're Republicans, then suddenly Charlie Kirk is Professor X and the deep state is the Sentinels. And Candace Owens is standing there like she's auditioning to narrate the Blu-ray commentary. And here's where it gets even better. This is the same Candace Owens who recently announced in the same podcast episode, with complete sincerity, that she might be an alien. An alien from space. Yes, she floated the idea that she might not be from this planet, which honestly clears up a lot for us. Describing something that she texted to Charlie Kirk, Owens says, "I thought I was from another planet, that I was an alien my entire life. Just do not get it here. This planet is ghetto. That's how I feel. I don't understand it. The rules don't make sense. I think that's also why I like cats so much. I feel that they can relate to that. They think that humanity is ghetto." Because once you start accepting that Candace Owens might not be operating under the same rules of reality as the rest of us, now her entire career makes sense. This is a woman that pushes conspiracy theories so reckless that even conservative editors are now publicly calling them out as shameful, dangerous, and detached. And she keeps amplifying fabricated stories. She flirts with anti-Semitism. She's trafficked in conspiracies so sloppy that they collapse under even the lightest of scrutiny. Like accusing any successful, strong woman of being a man. Because out of all of that, she can't understand how someone else is successful without being a complete whack job. Of course, Candace Owens is a ratings machine. She's #1 in global podcast downloads, 3.5 million downloads per episode. So she's either a genius or so out there that she's matching wits with the lowest common denominator. And I want to think about that for a second. This is someone who is tossing out the absolute most crazy nonsense, making up stories that I'd expect to hear from a 5-year-old with ADHD after they shoveled cotton candy down their gullet while watching Saturday morning cartoons. And people, a lot of them, are actively seeking out this sort of content. And they're not tuning in to watch this as performance art. These are people who are captivated by it. They're buying in. They're believing all of these BS narratives. And it's almost like that the most outrageous stuff, the more outrageous the claims, the faster it spreads. The less grounded in reality it is, the more it's going to dominate their feeds. This is the same ecosystem that keeps people like Joe Rogan and all of the rest of them permanently at the center of conversation. Just asking questions. That beats verification. Fantasy, molded to fit your preferred narrative, beats reality. And Candace, she's leaning into this insanity. Aliens, mutants, hidden forces, chosen figures. And that's where Charlie Kirk comes back into this. Because the right can't just remember him for what he actually was. They want to see him transubstantiated. They need him to be Dale Earnhardt, Jesus, Elvis, Gandhi, and Toby Keith all rolled into one person. A rebel, a martyr, a folk hero, and a legend too big to question. They need him to be their savior. Because to them, if Charlie Kirk is just a guy, a political operative who built a career on provocation and culture war escalation and outrage, then his legacy is debatable. And to the right, that can't stand because facts don't exist to them anymore. Numbers don't matter. Polls are made up. Court rulings don't apply. Video, it's all a lie. You can show them certified election results, sworn testimony, body cam footage, transcripts, timelines, all side-by-side clips, and it all just bounces right off of them. Because if reality contradicts the stories that they want, reality gets tossed aside and they build a replacement. A parallel universe where January 6th was either a peaceful tour or an FBI setup or somehow Biden's fault, depending on whatever is most convenient for them that day. It's a parallel universe where Trump is brilliant and totally competent, where they pretend that they've loved tariffs all along and Greenland makes total sense to take over. A universe where they never said the things we all watch them say on camera. Did I say that? No, I didn't say that. Even though yes, you absolutely did. It is a multiverse of madness, not grounded in any evidence, not anchored to any facts. Whatever it takes to keep their base frothing at the mouth. And once you accept that reality is optional to these people, mythology is the next step. So now we get this origin story retconning. Everything uncomfortable gets sanded down. Everything inconvenient gets erased. The messiness disappears, and what's left is this shiny, mythic version that can't be criticized without being labeled disrespectful by somebody clutching their pearls. Put Charlie Kirk beyond context. Make questioning him feel taboo. And then turn him into a time-traveling, CIA-trained mutant, because that's just the most unhinged version of their strategy. Which, by the way, I want to think about this. This would be really funny because if Charlie Kirk actually existed in the X-Men universe, he wouldn't be hiding from the government. He'd be standing outside of the Xavier Institute yelling that these schools are woke indoctrination camps while asking to use the auditorium to find the dumbest student that he could find to debate. Now look, you can condemn assassination without worshiping the dead. You can reject violence without surrendering your brain. And you don't have to participate in Candace Owens' cinematic fantasy just because she's good at turning all of this nonsense into clicks. Really, that's all this is. It's a performance. And it's a profitable one. And the fact that it keeps getting rewarded tells you a lot more about the media ecosystem that we live in right now than it does about Charlie Kirk or Candace Owens' supposed extraterrestrial origins. But honestly, if she really is an alien, somebody probably should phone home and come get her. Doesn't it seem like our feeds are getting filled with more and more BS right-wing MAGA content? It's no secret that all these top tech bros are in love with the current regime, so it's no surprise that independent left-leaning media is being squashed by the algorithm. If you like our content and content like us, it doesn't take long to click that thumbs up, share, comment, or subscribe. So please help us keep the truth alive.